I know the air I'm breathing, it's no good for my lungs. I do this every season, I hate when summer comes. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I'm always self-destructive, I take a hit, I love it. Can you give me a second? I'm slow, got blurry vision, I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. Please help me see the things that I am, I don't understand. I'm doing the best that I can right now, but it's never enough. I'm not even ready to slow down. Just slow down. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I know the air I'm breathing, it's no good for my lungs. I do this every season, I hate when summer comes. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I'm always self-destructive, I take a hit, I love it. Can you give me a second? I'm slow, got blurry vision, I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. Please help me see the things that I am, I don't understand. I'm doing the best that I can right now, but it's never enough. I'm not even ready to slow down. Just slow down. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I know the air I'm breathing, it's no good for my lungs. I do this every season, I hate when summer comes. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I'm always self-destructive, I take a hit, I love it. Can you give me a second? I'm slow, got blurry vision. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. Please help me see the things that I am, I don't understand. I'm doing and he's pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Welcome back to, ladies and gentlemen, PSGL round 7 of the 2023 season. Yes, first time we can say 2023, and we are heading to Portugal, Portugal, and we are back. George is back. Hey, where were you last time?
I don't want to talk about it. I was at a funeral.
Ah, okay. I probably should have had a conversation of where you were before.
Nice one. You really landed yourself in that one, didn't you?
I really did. But that being said, you did miss such a good race last week in Britain, as we saw the championship go and extend for Rishan as he goes and takes the lead of the championship and further extends it. But we also had a great battle between Tripkov and Liam Stevens, who put himself for the first time on the podium, and wow, what a battle that was. I don't know if you've had a chance to view that clip.
Honestly, no. The new year and everything has been so frantic for me. I haven't had a chance to even see anything to do with it. So I'm just going in fully blind here without the results of what happened last time out. I just want to come in and just watch some good racing. That's all I'm here for. Screw commentating. I'm just here as a spectator, really, just with a better view.
Yeah, to be honest, you have the best view because you can pick and choose what the hell you want. That being said, of course, we do have to talk about, you know, things and everything. We have a job here, but Portimao, a track in my eyes that doesn't get. It's one of those. It's a fan favorite, but I feel for the wrong reason.
Well, I come from a background of motorcycle racing. And in motorcycle racing, this track is an absolute heater. It is so good for bike racing, because generally in bike racing you prefer corners that have longer profiles that generally allow you to get a little bit more acceleration, carry more speed, because that's tough to do on a bike with only 2 contact patches. But with a car, this track is slightly less enjoyable, but because it's got such good elevation changes and because of that factor alone, it makes the track so good for just racing generally. It's in the Algarve with lots of hilly areas, and it's reflected within the layout of the track as well. You drop down to come all the way back up again to make a very steep drop, like Cadwell Park almost. Not quite as excessive as Cadwell, even though you can get some airtime on a motorcycle. It's a great track. I really enjoy it for all the wrong reasons, because it's dangerous and it has elevation change. I don't enjoy it to watch racing on it because there's realistically only one good overtaking spot, which is the end of that front straight.
Yeah, and you say there's only one. Yeah, turn 1 is your realistic one. There are other opportunities if you're able to stick it side by side through turn 1. Turn 3 becomes an option as a very, very rare opportunity. You do have another DRS detection zone from turns 3 to 4, which then allows overtaking at turn 5. And then much of the rest of the section, if you make a lunge into turn 11, you're absolutely ballsy and off your nutter. And essentially, you will see drivers actually try some moves at turn 15 if they're looking to take the lead early, but the likelihood you won't see it at 15, because that's a long right-hander which leads down to the back straight. And again, I'd be surprised if anyone did want to mount a move on that section.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one. I think we're ready to actually get underway. Well, I think the drivers are in the lobby, was what I mean to say, and they're having a bit of a hoo-ha, a bit of the hokey-cokey about whether it's time to start or not, because some people keep readying up, then unreadying and restarting the timer. So I think we're finally ready to crack on into it. We've got a 20-second countdown now, so hopefully that means that everything should be in action. And I think we have nearly a full grid this evening as well, Reese, which would be nice. 18 drivers in for qualifying at the very least, and hopefully that means that a few more turn up towards the race. I'm not sure whether that is permitted by the rules, but I have seen that happen before. People with late entry, getting home from work or whatnot. It's not always the easiest thing to get done. But we have 18 minutes of short qualifying around the beautiful Algarve Portimao circuit. It's a shame we don't really get to go to this circuit anymore. It was kind of in for COVID. It became a fan favorite and then died. I don't know why we decided that was the way, but it's the way.
It is the way, and as I mentioned, it's one of those tracks that people love for the wrong reasons. The fact that, it doesn't produce the most amazing racing, but when the real F1 did happen, they actually made the most of it. They did actually demonstrate some great overtaking in the real world, and in that sense, it was amazing to watch. And I feel Portugal should be on the calendar. It definitely did host a brilliant race, and it was entertaining to watch. But there were some other tracks that did pop up as well, such as the third track in Italy. I cannot for the life of me remember what that one's called. Mugello, there you go. Which again hosted some brilliant.
Another bike track, by the way. See, it's what I'm saying. All these good bike tracks with elevation changes. We should just be racing at all of these. Yeah. That's really what we should be looking for, because the difficult thing with elevation change heavy tracks such as Portimao as well, one thing that people often overlook when thinking about these particular battlegrounds, these arenas for sim racing in cars or racing in real life in cars, is that generally they're quite hard to produce a setup for because of the elevation change. You have to kind of balance the downforce with traction and also straight line speed, because they often have a bit of a long straight in the case of Mugello, and also the final turns 14 and 15 onto the front straight here at Portimao. You have to kind of make that sacrifice. You have to kind of make that coalescence, I suppose, between setup, and it becomes quite technically difficult, A, to drive, and B, to set up. So it's all really about the car on this lap more than it is about the racecraft, shall we say.
Yeah, it is a very, very different track, none to say the less. But we have our drivers out on track, and what are the... I don't know if you've done your douse of research, but what times are you expecting for the likes of, Jane Tripkov, who we're watching right now? What are we expecting for him to set?
Oh, Tripkov, I'm not really expecting too much. It would be more like his teammate Schumacher that I would be expecting a little bit more from. But for the time being, if I remember correctly, it's a pretty short lap in an F1 car. I'll be able to tell you the bike time around this track rather accurately. But that's just me. You know?
That is just you.
And also, they do race on a slightly different circuit configuration. Not too different, but I think turns 5 and maybe turn 8 are slightly different, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, I think it's low lap time, like a 112 or 118. I'm not totally sure off the top of my head. I haven't done the research into it, but if when I raced it in my own league, that's what I believe I was looking at on the time trial leaderboard. So I'm not too sure. That was a while ago though. That was at the start of the game when we did this. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit out of touch with it. I do, however, remember that because of the ascending traction zones on some of these corners, traction is a very tough commodity to find, and I remember that being exceptionally infuriating. And we'll see if it's the same case for many of the drivers here, whether their setup is too oversteery and loose on the rear end that they end up losing out on lap time, or just spinning.
Well, we're about to find out. Tripkov holding it nice and tight. He's keeping it clean. Not too much of the traction getting away from his. Patrick Hadler is retired already from the qualifying session very early on. Heading round, where are we at? We're at turn 11 and through into turn 12 and 13. It's an uphill once again as the car will navigate its way round turn 13 and now through turn 14 as we start to descend again. And then we go back up very slightly to go down and then back up again. And this is what we mean about the elevation changes. It really is a roller coaster for sure. And Tripkov will find himself a lovely 116.7. And it's Van Nage Schumacher cannot beat the time.
Yeah, I think 118 was probably the pace that I was running on this track, let's be real. So 116 seems about reasonable, and that actually, I think, compared to the rest of the field, is going to be a relatively competitive time. I mean, we saw it, I think, 2 races ago. I can't quite remember exactly who it was. I think it might have been Andre Molnar, who went out on track, set the fastest time at Canada, and then it wasn't beaten for the entirety of the session. So we might see a similar position here from Milan Mayer, who was a little bit off the pace in Canada last time I was here. I'm not quite sure how he performed in Silverstone, but either way, this is going to be an interesting qualifying session, because I think that casualty we've had from Patrick Hadler might not just be a retirement in the pit lane kind of thing. I think it might just be an accident or something, if I'm not totally mistaken. I think I saw him out on track, but I could be completely mistaken about that one. I could be looking at the other Williams. Bartos Amaro has also suffered a similar fate. He has actually crashed in the 3rd sector, and looking at it, that's around turn 12, if I'm not mistaken. That corner is a bit of a pain, in all honesty. Just with getting traction down as well. You spin, you're almost instantly in a barrier, or the oversteer snap continues into the corner. So it kind of gets you caught off guard a little bit. Anyway, where are we at? Who are we looking at on lap times currently, Reece?
Thomas Gal we're waiting for him to set his lap time, but I want to make a point that our championship leader, Rishan, only finds himself 3/10 slower than Milan Mayer in P8. And we know Milan Mayer, he's been amongst the grid. He's currently 3rd in the championship right now, only 11 points behind, so critical points might make a difference. But Thomas Gal says, nope, I'm the one that's in the fight. I'm the one that's going to be making some dents into this championship, as he's P7 right now.
Yeah, Thomas Gal's had a pretty decent season, all things considered. He's just kind of been there or thereabouts, chipping away. Had some good results, if I recall, in Canada, but maybe got swallowed up. My memory's hazy on that. It was so long ago before the Christmas break, and I've drank a lot of alcohol since then. Either way, Thomas Gal was one of my people to look out for moving into this season. And, has impressed me so far, but I think needs a really big result. And putting it on pole here would be one of those. Of course, moving from the AlphaTauri team into this Red Bull seat. I don't know whether that's an intentional move because the seat's available or whatnot, or whether it's just a mistake today. Either way, I've been really rooting for him, and I think he needs a really solid result here. And so far, it looks like he has the pace to kind of bring that one to fruition, as everybody else is in the pit lane right now, apart from 2 drivers, one of which is Rainbow, king of the alternate strategy and then the bin, who is on an outlap at present.
Yeah, with Thomas Gal, just to point out, he got 3rd in, it was Monaco, so brilliant job on the Monaco track. And I agree. There's something there because his name always seems to pop up in our conversations. You know, Canada was a brilliant one because he was actually amongst the mid pack. He only got 3 points off it, so that was, hang on a minute, maths. That would be 9th, sorry, with a fastest lap to his name. So there's something there. He just doesn't always put it out because then you look backwards from him. You know, he then didn't get points in Netherlands. He didn't get points in the opening race, but in Bahrain he got 6 points there. So a mixed bag, but he's got pace. He's got a winning attitude to keep fighting. It just doesn't turn out necessarily when the race comes about.
No, you're absolutely right, and part of the reason for that, I find as well, he has been chronically unlucky this season as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's been involved in a couple of mid-pack collisions, and that's always the difficulty when you're starting that low down or in that middle area of the grid. In the opening laps of a Grand Prix, it can always get a bit punchy. Your elbows always can get jostled with some other folks, and you can end up losing your front wing or other pieces of damage to the car, or just generally spinning yourself around and getting caught up behind people. And whilst I think that Tomas Gal has more pace than he's shown thus far, from my previous experiences of him and, of course, just in this championship, visually watching the way he's performed, I think you have to have a certain degree of racecraft and wits about you in order to execute on that pace. Maybe that's just something that he has been lacking, whereas his teammate Molnar has actually had another similarly decent run of things. Yeah. But looking around the circuit at the moment, I'm on board with Rainbow. He is just coming around to finish his lap at the moment. It's about to enter the third and final sector as he comes through turn 13 momentarily. This is so far not looking like too bad of a lap, but Rainbow so far this season started out life as a reserve driver. I don't know whether he's been promoted just yet, but I was a couple of people who got promoted to F3, so I would assume that he has been, because he was pretty high up the priority list. And as such, he's been racing pretty well, qualifying pretty poorly, but always on the alternate strategy, always picking something that's just wildly different from everybody else. And he makes huge gains at the start of races, but obviously when the tyre advantage goes away from him, falls backwards and ends up getting himself in some kind of drama, whether it be mistiming the strategy or going for something way too outlandish or just getting caught up in a unnecessary battle that ends his race. There's been too many openings for that for Rainbow this season. If he wants to start improving, he's going to have to start finishing. Yeah,
P8 was his last race. I just realised that I mentioned about fastest lap and P9 being 3 points. No, it's P8 because the point systems are slightly different in this league. But yeah, Rainbow, you know, he got points in Britain. He definitely put on a little bit of a show again last race. But you're right in saying he likes to go for the risk, and I would just physically love to see the reward pay off for him just once. Get him a good bunch of points. Prop himself up a bit higher because he's currently 23rd in the championship and he has the full-time seat in Aston Martin, so it would be good to see him jump up and take, you know, ownership of his race. As we currently watch Tomas Gal going extremely slowly, he's backed off his run, and another driver we've not spoken about for a little bit is Karafalitis.
Yeah, Miltos Karafalidis has been a bit like Tomas Gal in that respect, of what we were talking about earlier, where he's kind of been there or thereabouts, had a few bum results this season, also had a few good ones. I don't think this lap, if what I believe to be true when I flicked onto him, is going to be really troubling anything, and I think he is harvesting ERS as well. So I think he'll be coming straight back in. I think he might have got impeded, or whether this is his in lap, I'm not sure, but he's going at some rate of knots to get around people. Yeah, Miltos Karafalidis has kind of been second fiddle to Laminen in that respect, who hasn't, in my opinion, shown extortionate amounts of pace, but has been extortionately consistent. Whereas Karafalidis started off the season really well. I remember in Barcelona and Bahrain, he was quite the contender in the upper midfield in that kind of, let's say, 5th, 6th area, pushing in towards a podium at best. And in the latter parts of it, I mean, especially in Canada, he had an absolute howler, a stinker of things, if I recall correctly.
Yes, DNF. A minute, I'm looking at my beautiful cheat sheet. Yeah, 2 DNFs. It was in Canada and in Monaco, and then no points furthermore in Britain. But he came out with an absolute banger with 6 points off the get-go. So it's almost like that he put all that effort into the start, and it's not worked out for him, as Rainbow has retired and he will be staying in P16. So all of our positive talkers only left him there. As we are watching Andrew Karapi, he did go positive in the first sector, but he's now 2 seconds behind, so I don't think that's gonna stick. And I want to briefly talk about Liam Stevens, the man who puts himself in second last race with an absolute cracker of a battle for the last lap. The final 2 corners into Stowe, had to defend his ass off against the I think it was Karafalitis. Was it Lam? No, sorry, it was Tripkov. Had to defend his ass off with Tripkov. Tripkov did not give in as they went into the final chicane, and Liam Stevens just kept going. The switchback that got him his second place. Currently in P4 right now. I've got a feeling, I'm trying to find his name on this sheet. Liam Stevens. That was his first race.
I was going to say he's a debutant last time out because I haven't seen him before. Is he a reserve driver or was he promoted recently from
let's have
F5?
a look. I'm trying to find it. Unfortunately, my sheet is absolutely shocking. He is a Mercedes driver full time now, so he has most likely been promoted into the Merc seat. And already, see, P4 once again at the moment, before we head into the final runs, he's absolutely flying.
Yeah, man was out here really smurfing in F5 by the looks of things. He seems to be doing much better and slightly with better competition here in F4 as well. To get second place on your debut, always a bonus. It's a Kevin Magnussen kind of response, that one. If you remember back to Albert Park in his McLaren debut days.
Mm-hmm.
That was a one-time thing.
Yeah, the one-time thing where I felt really good for a second, then I realised that season went shocking. Don't remind me of that season.
That was a nice start. It was a nice start. Just like me as a Ferrari fan. Nice start to the season, and it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. Thomas Gal on his lap. Can this beautiful driver put anything on the board today? He's currently P5. He's about a 10th behind. And where on this track? You're the expert of this track. Okay, it's MotoGP related, but where in this track do you pick up and lose time?
The time mostly to be gained is honestly in the second sector, where you make the ascendancy and then the dive down. Some of these corner names, by the way, some of the corners have names and some of them have numbers. So if you hear me refer to them as names, confusing. By the way, one of the corner names between turn 10 and 11 is called Portimao. How confusing is that? Anyway, moving on. So anyway, up through about, I think it's turn 6, turn 7, turn 8, turn 9. So Samson Craig Jones down the hill. That's really the most technical sector of the track, where you got a quick kink into a very fast rising up traction zone from I think about third gear or second gear, depending on where you're playing it with this car, and then immediately bombing it back down the hill, trying to regain stability over the aero balance of the car, and then turning it into what is, in all honesty, a relatively quick corner, which is turn 9, Craig Jones, and then you kind of lift back up again. If I'm not mistaken, by the way, it doesn't matter where people are going to find time, because I think I've just seen some spots of rain.
Really?
I think I have.
I'm going on the onboard. Yes! Yes, you are right. If you look on the screen, you can see the streaks that are coming down the car. That is the first sign of rain. So congratulations, good spot on that. The lap times will not increase, which means Andrew, I've been saying this name for all this time. Molnar has quickly put himself into P1 at a critical point in this qualifying session. How have I forgotten Andre Molnar? How have I messed up that name?
Unfortunately, I think here, the only people who might even find any way of improvement are people who are just finishing a lap, but I don't feel as if that's anybody. I mean, look at Tomas Gal. He's not really getting much out of this lap already. I mean, he's what? Okay, 13. He might be able to get this one over the line, but it's not going to be troubling anything. He's going to be straight into the pits. And honestly, I think that's just going to be qualifying over right there and then. The track condition is only going to get worse. It's only going to get less abrasive. It's just going to get slippier and greasier, and there's going to be no traction on a very traction-limited track anyway. I wouldn't be surprised as whether we see just people retiring up en masse or waiting out the clock.
I tell you who is not in a good position. Our championship leader, Rishan, after winning the British Grand Prix by a landslide as well. He confidently had, I think it was a 3 to 4 second gap between himself and the battle on the last lap. Rishan's in 14th, and the problem with Rishan is his record is so up and down. There's no consistency with Rishan. And I love the guy. The guy's a really lovely guy. I've had the odd conversation with him. He's lovely and a brilliant driver when he puts his mind to it. But 12 points off the get-go, which was, I believe, second place, after nearly taking first. He then drops down to 8 points, which would be, I think, roughly fourth. Then fourth. Then he goes 9th, 8th, and then back up to first.
Yeah, I think that's what we call consistently inconsistent. It's been a bit of a stinking season for him, frankly. I mean, we expected more out of him when we saw him at the start of the season. And then Bahrain wasn't quite all it was cracked up to be for him. And then the middle portion of this season has just been tumultuous, to say the least, as Nicola Aleda on my side of things has just given us a brief little spin there as the track is getting visibly slippier. So yeah, for Rishan, I don't really know what more there is to be suggested with how he can be going. I mean, he's a young kid, obviously. Like you say, maybe it is a question of the mental side of things, just hasn't quite got the mentality there to be on the pace every single race. But, you know, as for the way that he performed in Silverstone, and obviously as for the way that he performed in Barcelona, despite not getting the win there by penalty, I still think he's a very impressive young talent. Maybe not quite yet prodigal. I wouldn't go as far to say that. But he's definitely able to make a rise on his day. Just needs to find a little bit more consistency, a little bit more perseverance, potentially. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be seeing a bit more of this kid moving forward at the top of the field. So, as the final few seconds of the session tick on down, 5 seconds, only Sven Schumacher is the only driver not to retire. And he has just done so to end the session a whole whopping 3 seconds earlier than we would have. That forms the basis for your front row. It's an all-Hungarian top 3. Andrei Molnar takes pole with a 1:16.361, so he did come down quite significantly from where we were at the start of the session. It's going to be Tomas Gal in the Red Bull in P2 with a 16.5, and then Milan Meyer rounds out that Hungarian trio with a 16.596, just a few hundredths behind his compatriot in third. Miltos Karafalidis rounds out the top 4 with Liam Stevens, your man to watch from last week, manages to slot it into a very respectable 5th place, and then the usual suspects start to filter out down beneath. But a few outliers: Sven Schumacher in 13th, Thomas Lamminen in 12th, and Rishan, of course, in 14th.
Yeah, it's definitely a spicy area of the grid, is that midsection, and that's usually where the action does lie within the race. But the question is, who's going to get a good run? Because the run down to turn 1, I would say it's a fair distance. I wouldn't go as far as like Mexico, which is a ridiculously long run down, where being on the second row is better. But you still have a little bit of time to, you know, make an impact.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You got a little bit of, I wouldn't say on the first lap it's going to be the prime thing, because the braking zone is quite long because you're going downhill. Just ever so slightly, the camber, the first corner is downhill on the braking zone into it. So I wouldn't imagine that you're going to be seeing too much by way of overtaking on the first lap into there, because the braking zone is extended by the gradient of the corner. Not like turn 1 Austin, which is the inverse, where the braking zone is shortened by the gradient, the incline of the corner. So there's that to consider. A lot of your braking zones on this track where you would naturally feel the corner would be at like an overtaking opportunity. For example, the bottom of the hill, Craig Jones corner, where it's slightly faster, turn 9. It isn't really quite as obvious as you think it might be because of the downhill. You have to brake a lot earlier, and it often extends the braking zone just a little bit too much to make it safe. Either way, let's go, Reese.
That's absolutely. There's 5 lights. They turn off, and we're off racing. And we already see Andrew Muln there. He got a bit squirmish, a bit of over tyre rotation from the get-go, but he's able to hold off that Red Bull quite nicely and able to hold first place all that he needs to. But down the inside, we can see Thomas Gal. He is looking, he is thinking, and he's saying, you know what, I do want a shot somewhere amongst this. But Sven Schumacher, absolutely climbing up the grid. He's currently in 8th place. He's trying to look for what he could do down the inside. He's going to find himself yet another position, and for a good run up the back of Liam Stevens, who has dropped a few positions himself. He's down in P6 where he was in P4 originally, and Milan Meyer also getting a bit in a kerfuffle with Karafalitis up ahead, and the exit from Milan Meyer might pose some questions for Andrew Karapi.
Well, here's the reason why Sven Schumacher's made up all those places off the start. It's the medium tyres. He's gone the other way round to almost everybody else on the grid. He's up 6 places at present. There's only 2 other drivers in the entire field who are on these medium tyres right now, and that is Thomas Lamminen and Bartosz Zamaro all the way down in P18. I think he's sustained damage as Zamaro, so he'll be a non-factor for the majority of this race. Sven Schumacher's still under threat from Liam Stevens behind, but at the moment, like you mentioned, it's up front. Milan Mayer and the rest of the boys are getting cooking. Don't let them cook too much, though, because Miltos Karafalidis has already lost touch with the front two. They're on some different gravy today, Reese, as Andre Molnar and Tomas Gal have already got a second and a half over Miltos Karafalidis.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose out time here too early, as I can see Alexander Johansson going for the move into turn 3. I told you, if you're able to continue the car through, turn 3 opens up to an opportunity. Wasn't able to fully make the move, but down into turn 5, no DRS yet, but that could have been a move. And Sven Schumacher, he's back at it again. He's going for it. He's not wasting time here. And this is why those medium tires are working well for him. Round the outside, this is brave and bold through turn 8. It doesn't work, so he's going to have to wait just that little bit longer. But the aggressive strategy for Sven Schumacher, I'd give him a thumbs up.
Move.
That is a move.
That's a hell of a move.
That's a lovely move. What's that? Turn 11. I did say turn 11 is a possibility. Did I or did I not?
Double apex right-hander. It's exactly the same as at Paul Ricard, where you have a similar opportunity in the final sector too. But this one is obviously slightly more reduced in length and in size, but that's exactly what Sven Schumacher needs to be doing. He needs to be getting busy, getting jiggy with it, pulling off all these moves as best as he can and as soon as he can, because he needs to make those medium tires work. He is on the clock. His advantage against these hard tire runners does not last all that long. And to be honest, if I'm Milan Mayer right now and if I'm Sven Schumacher, my priority is clearing Miltos Karafalidis, because he is acting as a roadblock at the moment. He is helping out the Hungarian duo up front who are just pulling away.
Do you think there's a little bit of, you know, a little bit of a friendly hand for the nation? You know, Team Hungary, go and try and win. But
well, I mean, they're both the ET8 guys, so they might be just pulling away from one another. I believe they were teammates previously in the Alpha Tauri as well. Tomas Gal, I don't know why he's in the Red Bull today, but
oh, either way. But no matter what, Liam Stevens is kind of in a sandwich right now between two very competitive drivers. Got Karapi ahead of him, which he keeps closing up. He keeps applying the pressure. But then you got Alexander Johansson right behind him, who again also likes to get involved. We know Johansson is one for, you know, getting a little bit involved, but he's a very strategical man himself, a very mature driver in the way he drives. There's opportunities he had off the get-go, but he decides against it, and look at this run. Johansson, if he gets a good exit here, that's looking quite competitive. Taking into account he has DRS, and Liam Stevens is losing off a little bit to that Red Bull. So is Johansson in that position to attack? I don't think so, purely because of the DRS ahead of him.
Additionally, I'll just make the point of the battery differential between the two as well. Stevens has held on to a lot more of his ERS off the start than Johansson has, so making inroads for Johansson is going to be difficult, considering he doesn't hold that advantage over Stevens in front.
Schumacher, guess what he's doing? He's going down the inside. He's actually made the move into turn 5 using the DRS. He does force Milan Mayer wide, but the move had already been completed, so that's an easy move for Schumacher. And this alternate strategy, this could play up well. This could be good for him. He just really, as you said, he needs to get past Karafalitis, and he's in a safe haven at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if it'll be enough, though. We've seen time and time again on this game specifically that the hard to medium strategy has always been more preferred. The lighter fuel load mixed with the better tyres towards the end of the race generally has a net advantage over taking those better tyres earlier on in the race when your fuel load is higher. You can't make the most out of it. You're going to be struggling on worse tyres with the fuel load, with the tyre wear. That's just generally what we've seen. So as such, the mediums here have to make hay whilst the sun is shining. And by that, I mean he needs to clear Karafalidis and try and pull himself back up to the rear of the Hungarian duo up front to try and make something, just anything out of this, really. Of course, already tantalizingly close to an overtake. If he can just pull these next few corners together, he will, of course, have the superior traction, but I think very, very soon we're going to start seeing
I'm
that
just going to
changeover
interrupt you very
period.
quickly. It's going to be the battle for the lead as Andre Molnare is going to get overtaken by Thomas Gal. So them two, who were, we believed, helping each other, no, they're at war with each other. Thomas Gal makes a brilliant move into turn 5, and that's going to help massively. Not too much of a defense from Molnare. You know, he allowed the move to happen on the inside of turn 5, but at the same time, they haven't lost any time to Miltos Karafalitas.
A little bit, actually. I think they lost a couple of tenths at the very least. They were extending that advantage. It was already well beyond 2.3 seconds up until that move was made. But for the time being, I don't know whether this move might not be strategic from Molnare. He has got more battery, but what's wrong with just letting that battery collect itself back up? I mean, just to make that move alone, it looked like Gal had to use a fair amount of his ERS deployment. He's down on 33%. Meanwhile, Andre Molnare is up on about 54, so he's got considerably more. But anyway, Sven Schumacher looking like he might be on the move here in towards turn 1. Breezes past the Greek with that DRS assistance and now sets his sights keenly on the back of the Alpha Tauri 2.5 seconds up the road.
Yeah, and now is where you start to really worry. You're up ahead, you've got that 2.5 second lead. Yeah, you're chilling fine. But now they can physically see, and I think they could see it a little bit before. They know that Schumacher's on that medium tyre. The visualization, if you're new to F1 esports, first of all, welcome. Second, on the screen, what the drivers can see is only the 2 positions ahead and 2 positions behind. Unless you're in first, then you see the 4 positions behind. So at this point, for sure, Andrew Molnare will know that Schumacher is on those soft tyres and is a threat to their race. As already, what was 2.5 is now 2.2.
Yeah, I don't think that gap is going to come down as quickly as it would have done just a few laps ago, though. These medium tyres have been taking a beating in doing all these overtakes, the later braking. You're not really taking care of them at this stage in the race. You're looking to make positions. So as such, that tyre wear is going to be inflated, shall we say, when compared to some of the other drivers around you who have just kind of been letting you go when they realise that you are much faster. Either way, whichever way you slice it, the other medium runners haven't been able to make the same ground. Bartos Amaro out of this race already. And Thomas Laminen, who was one of the championship protagonists previously, is still languishing down in 14th. 1.2 seconds behind Rishan at present, who also has made barely any progress.
That is not a position you want to be for Thomas Lammen. You know, you want to be up in the fight. You're only 5 points off your championship rival. Okay, yeah, in Britain, he didn't have the best of runs, and that's where he lost the championship title and gave it to Rishan. Only 5 points. His rival had 16. That's where the switch happened. So you want to be getting points, because as of right now, it's a stalemate. Milan Mayer, he's in 5th. I feel it's not enough. Milan Mayer needs to close down to at least 3rd minimum, and he'll be 1 point off championship lead. If he can get himself 2nd, then he'll take the championship.
At present, that is looking like quite the possibility, because all of his championship rivals at the moment are just nowhere to be seen, apart from Andre Molnare, of course. But realistically, your big boys, Rishan, Thomas Laminen, where are they? What are they doing? They're not scoring points at the moment. Laminen on the medium tyres is just not even catching those ahead of him. And additionally, he's not really making any inroads either on those ahead of him. He got overtaken by Nitro Shooter just last time around as well. I don't know whether he's carrying damage that he's hopefully going to change at his pit stop, but this has been a very unsuccessful stint from Laminen. The Finn has just had a really poor showing of things here. Speaking of stronger showings, though, Ben Schumacher is gradually bringing that gap down. Unfortunately, he does not have the advantage of DRS, nor does he have any ERS really to speak of either. He is dragging Miltos Karafalidis and the rest of the crew behind up to this battle in front, but he's doing it very, very slowly at the moment, and ideally for him, needs to break that DRS behind to secure his position through the pit stop phase.
He does, absolutely. As a thought of strategy, and I want to pick your brains with this one. And it was an explanation I would have given to the top 2 for when they did their overtake, because we saw in the 2020 game when we had COVID, we saw it was Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc. When they did the virtual esport, they were swapping positions from one to another and increasing their lead. Would that strategy, if the two Hungarians worked together, just almost as a gentleman's agreement for 2 seconds, started overtaking each other, would they gain time ahead of a charging Schumacher?
It's possible, but at the moment they're doing it the wrong way around if that is their objective, because you want to do that to use the battery of the person in front who has more, recoup the battery of the person behind, and then swap to optimize it, basically. So you recoup the battery from behind, you gain more battery from in front, you make sure both of you have equal doses of DRS. And at the moment, they're not doing that because Molnár is the one behind. He's the one with the superior battery power at the moment. Thomas Gau is driving out of his skin, frankly, to make it this far, and he's also pulling currently Molnár along, as Molnár is actually having to deploy ERS around certain sections of this lap to keep pace with Thomas Gau at the moment, who is having a really strong middle portion. His tyres seem to be coming to him. He hasn't been stressing them. He's in a comfortable and spacious position at the moment, and it looks like he's found a little bit of extra pace without deploying too much ERS. And there it is, fastest lap of the race from Thomas Gau up front. And that has not been contested whatsoever by Andre Molnár on that time around.
Yeah, I think Thomas Gau has looked at Schumacher, saw that time closing, and gone, no, I ain't gonna be part of this. You know, like a relationship you see from your friends. You ain't gonna get involved in that. No, that's all you. And he's held him off, pushed Sven Schumacher from 1.8 up to the 2-second mark. And yeah, Molnár's having to respond. If he wants to stay close, he wants to have an opportunity come the latter end of the race, or actually first point at the pit stops, he has to remain close. And we're slowly creeping up onto pit stop territory, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, lap 14 should be seeing the first people in.
Yeah, probably for the medium runners. Yeah, I'd imagine that would be around the point where we'd be getting to. But if I'm Sven Schumacher at the moment, I'm going to be hurting. I think we've just reached that stage in the race where the medium tyres and the hard tyres are about on a par in terms of performance. But within the next lap or even lap or two, those hard tyres are going to become the more preferred tyre. They're just going to have more grip left on them. Sven Schumacher maybe could have extended these mediums just that little bit longer had he not had to do so much work from a poor qualifying performance. Yeah, this has been far from ideal for Schumacher, but as it stands for the time being, Milan Meyer is now setting fastest laps, and that is only going to be a warning flag for Miltos Karafalidis and Sven Schumacher ahead, because, well, Karafalidis hasn't had the pace. Schumacher is now losing time to those two hard runners ahead, and I think it's only going to get worse from this point out. So Meyer hopefully not going to get held up too much, and we can see what's going to be happening with him. But further down the grid, Alexander Johansson still yet to clear Liam Stevens, despite the fact they've been having this little nip and tuck battle for a while. It is as a result of that DRS train, though, Reese, and well, we know how difficult they can be.
It is very hard when you put yourself in that situation. One is the physical aspect of the game, is you're stuck behind a car that's going to deploy the DRS. They're going at the same pace. The only difference is how much ERS you have compared to them. And then two, it's just that mental strain. When I know my sim racing was a lot more amateur than what these guys are at, but even just sat behind a driver where you're going to this lap after lap after lap, it's so easy to doze off and just make a mistake. And that's what I did constantly, because I don't have the mental strain that these guys have. You have to stay focused, you have to keep putting in your lap times, and you have to wait for the opportunity to rise. Unfortunately for Johansson, it's not popped up where he wants it, though that red flashing light is the first point of confidence he's going to have all day.
Unfortunately, he's going to have a red flashing light of his own because they've got very similar ERS deployments. Johansson is sitting on about 17%, whereas Stevens is sitting on about, 8-9, but he is rapidly deploying the remainder of the battery that he does have to try and stay within the DRS of Andrew Karapi, which, if you notice, he was very nearly out of on that last time around. So we'll keep an eye on this battle for the time being, but meanwhile at the front, It's still spaced out over there. Andre Molnar is not really making much inroad on towards Thomas Gal. Sven Schumacher's tyres are now hurting as he loses time. But interestingly enough, Miltos Karafalidis and Milan Meyer aren't really making any inroads on one another. They need one of them to lose DRS, whoever it might be, whoever gets in front. And at the moment, it looks like Karafalidis is bordering on losing DRS to Schumacher.
I feel there might be something up his sleeve, though. I refuse to believe those medium tyres right now are outpacing these hard tyres. I just don't believe that unless Schumacher, and we know Schumacher has crept, he came in mid-season, you know, came into the game, absolutely put on a masterclass, so we know he's fast. But there we go, the gap is slowly closing, we're on the straight. I don't think Karafalitis is that naive to allow Schumacher to get away. The man is fighting for the I say that, no, he's not fighting for the championship, but he is in this championship as for such, because we're only halfway through. He's not naive. He will still fight for.
You always want any race win that you can get anyway. It's not, whether it's about the championship or not, you want the best result possible for yourself. And one thing that's interesting to me here is I think Karafalidis is actually comfortable where he is. Just watching him, I've been on board with him these last 2 rotations around the track. He's got decent amounts of battery, about 50% of his ERS deployment remaining. He's just driving comfy. He's just driving, so he's far enough back from the car in front that he's not pressuring himself to brake too late or whatnot, or brake earlier. He's just staying just far enough back that he maintains DRS, using ERS when he has to. He doesn't look rushed. He doesn't look under pressure. Looks like he's just keeping his powder dry and going to explode it all when he needs it.
Yeah, I was getting excited because I thought Molnar was about to make a move, but no. He is biding his time as well. He did it very close in Sector 2, which I feel is where Molnar has more pace from visual aspects, but no, nothing as of yet. And we're getting closer and closer to the pit stop phase. So phase 2 of racing, as I like to use this little 3-phase analogy. Phase 2 is where the next set of action will be, as we're going to wait to see who makes the first move. Thomas Laminen, down in 17th, made his pit stop extremely early. He's trying something. It is a bold move.
To be honest, when you're in Laminen's position right now, your race is pretty much run. You're not making any progress because you're stuck in a DRS train. Why not just get off those tires and get out of the train and just try and make the most of it while you've got free air? That's surely got to be the best of a bad option, really. You don't have a lot of good choices, but you've got to get those hard tires warmed up and then just push on whilst you can in free air. That seems like the best way to go about it to me. You don't want to have to be stuck behind people that entire time, and he wasn't making any progress. So I understand the call. He might suffer for it later on in the race, or it might just come back to bite him as soon as others make their pit stop, because you've got to remember they have that DRS, which is going to propel their lap times ahead of schedule as well.
Yeah, it will propel you, but it's always a disadvantage of the person who pits first. You are always going to be at disadvantage. Your tyres are cold. You're not going to have necessarily the DRS. And talking of taking the lead, it's going to be Schumacher who makes the leap, but he kind of has to. He's on those mediums. I kind of expected him to be first in. So who's going to respond? Is he going to trigger Molnar and Gal to go, you know what, we have to do something here?
No, I really don't think he is, because if I'm Molnar and Gal here, what I'm thinking to myself is, okay, currently we're setting fastest laps on the hard tyres, so we've got good pace at present. The tyres are still obviously feeling good because we're going faster and faster. We've got a nice buffer of 3 seconds behind us, and even if Schumacher manages to make any inroads, we're going to have medium tyres at the end of this race, and he's not. We're going to be able to just clear him, no problem. So I think on the Gal and Molnar front, I don't think they're going to be too worried about this in any kind of way. Unless they come out of their pit stop and find that Schumacher has cleared them by about 4 seconds, then I don't think there's going to be too much to worry about.
So you know our little stalemate between Johansson and Stevens? Well, they've swapped.
Yeah. Yes, that was because Stevens, I think, lost DRS to Karapi.
Yeah, it was that finally eventually happened, and already you can see Johansson. He's got a bit of work to do now to try and close up the gap, get behind Karapi, get the DRS that he needs. But if you're Stevens, that wasn't the best situation to be in. Reminder, he got P2 last time round in Britain. So he's wanting to set another benchmark, and you know what? P7 in this one currently, it's not too bad, you know. I wouldn't say no to P7, it's still points.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better for them at the moment, either of them, that being Johansson or Stevens, until the pit stop phase, really, because Karapi has considerably more battery, he has DRS of the cars in front who are already lapping at a better pace than they are, and they have no ERS themselves. Literally, I'm talking 0%. That's what they've been doing this whole time, fighting, burning ERS, trying to get by one another, seizing the opportunity when it came. And yeah, Karapi's been allowed to just get away with that one. He's not really been contested from behind in the sister Red Bull to the race leader. So he's just up with this front five, or should I say this little trio that's fighting for the final podium position at present. Whether Schumacher allows that one to lie, well, remains to be seen. Laminen has had, I'm guessing, some kind of moment because he's 18 seconds back of Schumacher when he wasn't that far back previously. So that might be Laminen's race over, but not to worry, still plenty of time left in this season. He can still recover what was looking like a promising championship campaign. And there we have our first pit stop from the hard tyres. It's Menno who's dropped into the pits in the Alpine. From the hard tyres to the mediums at lap 17. Let's see what he's got for us.
Yeah, see what pace he's putting out. Of course, people will be getting... They'll be getting some information. Anyone who's close by and be going, right, this is what we're looking at. Any of these drivers, of course, there's nothing wrong with these drivers having race engineers. We're at F4. We're starting to get to, you know, these drivers are borderline professional right now. Couple of reserves, couple of development drivers might sneak up into F4. So they're starting to have engineers of their own. So they might give the information out, seeing Menno, seeing his pace, how much he's closing on to Schumacher, whether this is the right time or should they push longer. So there's a lot of factors right now. I feel where Menno was originally, those drivers around him will have a look. So Tripkov, Adelaide will be keeping an eye out. Rishan for sure will be going, should we react? Or should we wait? But we're going to wait and see who is next to pop into the pits. It's not going to be the front two. It's going to be Kalafaritis who's going into the pits.
Why not at this point, right? You've got to try and do something to maintain this P3. Just to point out, by the way, I get kept on with Menno. He's just set the fastest Sector 2 of the race so far. So these mediums could be working an absolute treat. And just on top of that too, I don't know if Sven Schumacher is going to be as safe as he would have liked to have been. He might drop through this field just as quickly as he rose through it. So that's Istvan Nagy and Miltos Karafilides, by the way. Both of those drivers came into the pits. That's a fastest Sector 2 and 3 from Menno that time around. It only took him one sector to get those tyres in the sweet spot. So expect to see a purple lap time from the Alpine coming out so very shortly. And as such, he might be in a prime position to leap a few targets. And as a matter of fact, Schumacher, on these medium tyres, has gone back behind Miltos Karafilides.
Yeah.
How's this happened then?
I don't think those hard tyres have got the pace that he was expecting. So a bold start, which is going to put him in a good position for the latter end of race, but it's going to be all defending from here onwards. And Kalafilides will be celebrating massively, knowing that currently he sits net P3. He's gone early. He's now got this opportunity to put some heat into the tyres. Top two go past. Milan Mayer has to respond. He will, and so will Andrew Karapi go into the pits. So the decision to go in and react to what's happening.
Here's an interesting side to this story, though, for Sven Schumacher. If he has any amount of pace in these tyres, just enough to stay within DRS of Miltos Karafilides, he might be able to make life difficult for a few medium runners behind. He might be able to do that. Well, it's tough, but he's burning all of his battery using that DRS as well. He's about to go for a move on the medium tire.
Wow!
I guess maybe he wants to hold them all up. Oh, it's a bit of a car park in turn one as Milan Mayer exits the pit lane right into the path of an oncoming vehicle, but still keeps his cool and now joins this fight on those very, very cold medium tires. He's going to have to take some time to get them up to temperature, but this could be Sven Schumacher acting as a bit of a roadblock and securing a victory potentially here for the Hungarians up front, and also gaining some time for the people who are yet to pit onto these medium tyres. That way, by the way, the front six at present. That includes his teammate, Jane Tripkov, who really quickly went out of this race at the beginning and hasn't been able to recover just yet.
Yeah, brilliant move and brilliant timing from Schumacher. Risky, because he knew that there'll be drivers coming out of the pits, so he wasn't able to take the exact racing line because there's a car on the inside. So what a move from Schumacher to make, and now
everyone's in.
He's parked the bus in a position where he knows for sure this is where I can just defend the field. I can fend them off, and he will have to recharge because he red lighted. He was down to 10%. But he is in a fine position right now. Of course, Karafalitis is we're still in early phases of the pit stop exit, and you can see Karafalitis. He's going, yeah, all right, we want to play this game. I'll play it too, because he comes right back at Schumacher and retakes the position off him. Does Schumacher have anything into turn 3? No, and he will take that position happily. As we can see, there's Johansson. He's found himself in a mingle with Karapi. Unfortunately, those tyres are ridiculously cold, so he wasn't able to hold off Karapi, but Johansson able to gain himself some gave himself some time and be up right on the rear end of Karapi, where there was a second before.
Yeah, I mean, look at the difference between he and Liam Stevens, who pitted 1 lap apart, staying out an extra lap on those hard tyres when these guys were all battering and bickering amongst themselves in that first corner on the pit lane exit, has granted Johansson a little bit of affordance here. Now, as long as he doesn't lose this gap to the cold tyres, he should be okay, because he's going to find himself as part of the train that he previously was being gate-kept from by Liam Stevens in the previous stint. So a great move from Alexander Johansson, almost certainly helped out, of course, by Sven Schumacher, who is now going to find himself losing time hand over fist. He's barely been able to keep up with Miltos Karafalitis in this lap, does not have the ERS, to contend with the drivers behind him. Expect to see Milan Mayer putting the moves on him here with the ERS. Sees that red light flashing, easy as you like. Cheers, boys. The McLaren goes straight on by and now sets his sights on the Greek driver up ahead. Sven Schumacher is going to be on the struggle bus for these final 12 laps.
Yeah, not where you want to be, and as much as it paid off on the start, clearly has not going to be working in the second part of the race. And I'm going to be honest, I'm looking back and just kind of rattling my brain. We know that Sven Schumacher is an ERS heavy driver as well. He likes to use it up. He likes to make sure he's close to the drivers and stays within pace, and that's his downfall. There's not a lot of discipline with that ERS, not the same amount as his other drivers have. And look at what's happened. It's cost him dear. Hand over fist. He's lost 2 positions. Well, he had the position and then lost it, and then another one after that. And it's going to be Andrew Karapi again, who's going to be, well, I say again, Andrew Karapi next to take a line and a shot at the devastating Sven Schumacher as he lines himself up through turn 13. I'm not going to be surprised if this Red Bull is going to say goodbye. Look at that. He's already gaining. He's already passed nearly the Haas driver. Goodbye, my sweet moon, as he clears him effortlessly on the straight.
Now, this might be where Sven Schumacher's woes end for a little while, because behind him, Alexander Johansson does not have any ERS. So that might be where things start to just peter out a little bit here for the hard runner, and he might be able to just regroup some of his losses for a moment. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Up the front of the field, by the way, I think it was Andre Molnar that time around who set the fastest lap of the race, so at 1:19.0, I want to say. As it was, that was quite a bit faster than the previous best, and as such now, I think we might be seeing a battle for the lead happening in not too long. The ERS amongst these front two barely changed as well, by the way. The difference between them about 30% still. Miltos Karafalitis still yet to get away, but I'm really interested in what Milan Mayer can do. Started third, would certainly like to finish third, as that would give him some healthy points in this championship.
As mentioned, third will put him in second in the championship, 1 point behind championship leader Rishan, who is currently in the battle to get a point, try and deny and make it 2 points as a gap. But if Milan Mayer is able to not only take the position off Karafalitis and stay within 3 seconds roughly, as already, hold up, Milan Mayer is going to get past and will be currently second in this championship.
There we go, great move. And on further back as well, Sven Schumacher had the moves put on him because he'd lost DRS to Andrew Karapi. So that just made it easy for Alexander Johansson it seems that Sven Schumacher's luck is going to run out. I think we saw a similar thing happen to him in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. He went for that alternate strategy, made astronomical progress earlier on, and then just dropped through the field, and then ran out of fuel, I think, on the final lap, if that was him, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think it was him who ran out of fuel, but
I
do remember that he did. Yeah, there was one driver who did, but he definitely does like the early game. He definitely got a lot of positions off the get-go. Again, we were talking about Sven Schumacher, his pace and everything, as we do week on week. Every time we have a race, we compliment him massively. But I think today we've really expressed the reality of his driving. It's fast on the get-go. It's like making the mistake as you do at school. Sprint fast on a long distance race, and then you die at the end of it, and that's the problem with Sven Schumacher. He's going aggressive, he's dying at the end. I just want to draw your attention to Karapi, because Karapi was right up the rear end of Calafaritas, which means that there's an open opportunity, maybe, just maybe, for a move, just not right now.
Yeah, I don't think Karafalidis has
Johansson's got a time penalty.
Oh, that's not good at all. That was looking like a really solid result for Johansson, and now it's all going to go slipping away from him. He's got to hope that Sven Schumacher can do an absolute blinder of a job at holding up Menno and the rest of the gang behind to potentially give him that 3-second buffer back, but he's not going to be going any further forward, I'll tell you that much. He needs to maintain the DRS of the cars in front and hope that there's a miracle from the guys behind. But anyway, back to Karafalidis. I don't think he's really had the pace this entire race, to be honest. He's been good, but he's not been podium contention pace. And I think he's going to struggle to stay with Milan Mayer here on the closing 10 laps, because Andrew Karapi is looking quite feisty, despite not having the ERS to contend. And Miltos Karafalidis is just dropping, really. Only really staying in that window for the DRS. And if he continues to perform like this, he's not going to have that DRS for too much longer. Now, he may be driving calm and collected, like I said he was doing in the first stint, but this is the business end of the race now. This is where you need to start putting your chips down, your cards on the table. So this is where it's got to be done, and he is now using that ERS that he's been saving the entire race. Only just, though, to stay in that DRS of Milan Mayer ahead.
Yeah, if he can hold this position here, he's going to be looking at being just outside the top 10 in this championship. Of course, that is not factoring in any forms of other driver points coming in, because that's too much maths in my head. But Calafaritas, a brilliant start, 6 points off the get-go. Doesn't get anything from Bahrain. He then goes and gets 3 points, which is there down in 8th in the Netherlands, and then just nothing from there, and that is harsh for him. It's not what he wants to see, so he needs to put himself back into gear, back onto pace, and this is going to be some good points for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when speaking of needing good points here, I think Roshan really needs to find something special out of this one. Now, he's praying, of course, that Sven Schumacher, when he comes up to the field, which he should be doing soon, but he's got some reasonable pace against Menno. You remember, Menno was the first driver on those medium tyres to pit, and if you recall, when Sven Schumacher was on those medium tyres, they started losing a little bit of pace compared to the hard runners around 8 to 9 laps old. That's where the gap started to become significantly less obvious between the two tyres, and we started to blur into that transition period. But for Sven Schumacher, for Roshan behind, he's going to be hoping that Sven Schumacher does end up coming back to them and does start causing some issues that he might be able to exploit from the back of that group.
Yeah, indeed. Roshan, yeah, down P11, not happy. Tripkov finding, I think he had a 5-second time penalty. I'll just pull that one up. No,
that was for diving into the pit lane as well. Oh, sorry, that was for Nagy. My bad. Yeah.
Nagy, sorry. I saw there was a 5-second that popped up. So Nagy has retired, Rainbow has retired, and Zamaro has retired from this race, leaving us with 15 drivers left to battle it out. And I don't feel this race is done. Between the top two, I feel there is something that could form up. There's something static. It's not brewing in the sense of these drivers are being calm, but it's actually for third place, realistically speaking, is where I feel people are going to get aggressive and more impatient. Particularly, I'm going to say, we're going to start seeing the gaps close lap 30, where we're going to see the mindset change. Then come lap 31 earliest is when a move might happen. Lap 32 is when a more in-place move might happen. But lap 33, the last lap, is where we're going to keep an eye out, specifically this mid-pack, as they try and see who can claim the last podium position.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting battle for this last podium position, but I do have the odd inclination that Milan Mayer may have this one wrapped up. He does have a decent chunk of ERS, in fact the same chunk of ERS that Miltos Karafalidis behind does. So if he deploys it nicely, thinks about what he's doing, and ends up executing to a flawless T, and maybe, just maybe, we could be seeing that all-Hungarian podium as we saw that all-Hungarian lockout on the front row and the start of the second row in qualifying. So as it stands, Tomas Gal has risen one position, and Andre Molnar has not contested him for that one position just yet. Once he got past, he hasn't thought about going back on by, but I have a feeling that very, very soon, Reese, we're going to start to see not just this little quartet or whatever it is behind get into some feisty fisticuffs and pushing and shoving. We're going to start seeing the front two maybe doing exactly the very same. Because right now, Andre Molnar is currently 0.2 of a second behind Tomas Gal, which is the closest that he has been for quite some time. So keep an eye on this one next time around.
Are you sure that it's Kalafritis is the Hungarian? Because
Milan Mayer is the Hungarian. He was on the front row. He was P3 in qualifying. Karafalidis got him off the line.
I might have just. Yeah, I probably just didn't fully hear what you said earlier and just went.
I might have misspoke too. I don't know. It's been a long day.
Rewind the tape, boys. Let's find out who messed up. Who messed up here?
Either way, Leda was the one who messed up here. He got a 3-second time penalty, which gives Rishan a point, by the way. Interestingly enough.
Yes. So that's going to deny Milan Mayer for it'll be 2 points. He would be behind at this current state of time. Because I don't think the person who's next. Andrew Molnar, he's technically in. Ooh, hold up. Let you talk. Let me do some maths.
Okay.
No, I've got the maths already. I've got
okay.
it. Milan Mayer will jump up. He will jump up a few positions. He will overtake. He'll overtake Laminen, because the Laminen is not in a strong position. He's down in P15, so no points for him. But
wow.
Milan Mayer will go into, currently speaking, as it stands, P2. And so will Andrew Molnar, I believe, will stay P4. Because I think, if I've got it right, Laminen will just hold third. If I've got the maths right.
Not bad, kid. Anyway. Speaking of this third place battle, it looks like it may be settled relatively soon. Andrew Karapi is looking feisty on the back of Karafalidis here, and it's causing Karafalidis to drive in his mirrors, meaning that he's going to lose touch to Milan Mayer ahead. That's exactly what Karapi would have wanted, and it's also exactly what Milan Mayer would have wanted too. No DRS on the chasing Karafalidis. He's going to have to use all of his battery, and that still might give me the opportunity that I'm looking for. Karafalidis is doing everything in his power at this moment to try and stay in that DRS. It is his only defense available against the charging Karapi behind. The American has had a really weak season so far. I would love a strong result, and there it is outside of that DRS. He's going to have to use his battery to try and get back in it before the detection zone. I'm not sure whether he flipped it. I think he might be out of it. No DRS here now for Karafalidis. No, he's got it. He's just got it. He's just got it in the end. It was right
not on my screen.
Hair.
No.
Oh, well, he's got it.
He's
no?
not. He's not got it.
Yeah, yes.
Is he?
Yeah, he had it.
Oh, it didn't show on my screen.
What weirdness. He managed to gap a little bit there, actually, in that final sector using all that ERS, but that's all he's got. He's got 18% of the battery remaining now. Meanwhile, at the front, still no change, but that's getting spicy. Karafalidis is now, again, going to lose touch with Milan Mayer, so maybe this time around, we could see Andrew Karapi redeeming his season. Just as a note, by the way, on Johansson's 3-second time penalty, currently, he wouldn't lose out.
Yeah, Savan dropping back to P7, was 3/10 behind in P7. He is not in any chance to gain a position. Those half tires not doing anything for him. It really was a hard to medium strategy that should have been executed. We know he's fast. Stick to the plan. Stick to everyone else. It would have done so well.
Admittedly, if the race ended now, if the flag goes out now, by the way, these medium tyres are going to be starting to get worse than the hards in a moment. And they might yet still get that P6 back. But he's gained 6 places this race and stands to potentially gain 7. So I suppose if you look at the way that Rishan's race has gone, for example, somebody who he started relatively close to in the field, you'd say that doing the alternate strategy has given in some free positions. And speaking of free positions, there is a DRS-less Greek man ahead of you, and you've just mugged him. The American slides on through for 4th place, which I think would be making his best result of the season if he can keep this one up. And yet still, Karafalidis' work on defense isn't done, because Johansson is now looking like he wants to get a slice of that pie and is trying to slot it up the inside here. Unfortunately not. DRS, of course, on Karafalidis means that he is able to defend from the charging Johansson behind. The Swede looking dangerous, though, in these final laps.
Karapi got P2 in Canada, so this would be his 2nd best position in the championship. So good points for himself, and definitely will be... come off rosy indeed. Lap 31, I told you, this is where we're going to start to see the earliest of actions. And there we go. Karapi definitely demonstrating that he's not waiting around. He's not wanting to...
Oh, he's going.
He's gone. He's gone down the distance. He ain't going to allow Calafricius to go back at him. He will deny it as he comes around the corner. And once again, Calafricius is not going to be too happy. He will get the place back because of a time penalty that this man, Alexander Johansson, has in his favor. But there's no ERS to help. So it's DRS only. The DRS flap is open though, and you
neither
can see
of them have an ERS.
Yeah,
they're both on 0. They're both on 0%.
Almost.
And as such, neither of them get it. Oh, he's going up the inside here. He's going up the inside. Johansson tries it. It's going to be a flip back to the left here, of course. Got to leave appropriate racing room. Can't go all the way around the outside. Surely he's still sticking his nose in there. This time, Karafalidis has no DRS to play with, or at least, at the very least, didn't have any ERS to play with. A little bump on the way into the entrance to the corner too, and Johansson has cleared him. Karafalidis, where's your pace gone, my brother? Karapi, on the flip side of things, didn't get DRS that time around either, and as such has not been able to close that gap to Mayer ahead just yet, but is still endeavoring to keep that gap closing down. Yeah, Johansson almost bump drafting the Alfa Romeo down the main straight, holds it tight, and they said turn 3, if you can stay close, that's an overtaking opportunity, tries to make that attempt, and he just sticks with it. And that's what you need to do in these the last end of the race, is just stick to your guts, stick to your guns, and just go for it, no matter what. Going for it, though, we might have a one for the race lead here any moment. Andre Molnar has left this to the latest possible opportunity. Is he going to slot it up the inside? No. Interestingly enough, had battery to play with, had space to play with, and didn't go for the move. This race for the lead up front has been weird. They haven't fought each other. They haven't tussled with each other apart from that one overtake. Maybe now this is where Molnar wants to make his move. But again, Gala's got such a good run off of the top of turn 4. He's just got away from him. That could be the last opportunity for Molnar to get on by. He's now burning that battery. Tomas Gal still has way more in reserve by about 40 to 15% at the moment. And now, surely, Tomas Gal has pulled the master stroke, stayed in front this whole time, made this race his in the Red Bull. He's got the AlphaTauri charging behind him. It's a wide line trying to set up the next corner from Andre Molnar. But Tomas Gal, driving in his mirrors, got great defense, placing the car perfectly in the middle of the track, right where Molnar wants to be. And as such now, gets himself out that corner beautifully, gives himself enough of a buffer, and it looks to me that the Red Bull driver might just have done it with that ERS to spare. Yeah, he's done it well. He fended off the AlphaTauri driver, and Tomas Gal will get victory in Portimao, Portugal. The Hungarian driver 1, 2, and make it 3 for Hungary. Great result for the Hungarians at the top of the field. Great result for Milan Mayer to take some good championship standing. Sven Schumacher manages to maintain position in P7. Alexander Johansson, despite making that overtake on Karafalidis, doesn't manage to pull a 3-second gap, so will end up P6, which is a great result for the Swede, who's had a tumultuous season thus far. Rishan manages to steal a point. Liam Stevens, last time out on the debut podium, ends up P9 too. And of course, Menno, first driver to slot onto those mediums, ends up promoting himself into P8. A decent result all round for a lot of drivers here, but it's a tough and cold day for Thomas Lamminen. who ends up P14, DNFs himself on the last lap because what's the point? And that is going to be a tough pill to swallow for what was a championship contending driver.
That is a very tough pill to swallow, but just to see the one thing to note, Roshan being down in P10, that's definitely not what you're going to be. You're opening yourself up for the championship battle for many drivers because, yeah, Laminen's not there, but he's still only 5 points behind. He's ridiculously close. Now you've got Milan Mayer only 2 points behind you. You'll be scared now. You know that what are we on? Round 7 out of, I think it's what, 15-ish? I would be scared at this point. We're halfway through and you still haven't made a gap. All to play for. Really is all to play for.
Yeah, it is absolutely all to play for. This championship has been bitterly close the entire season long, and it seems like it's only going to be getting closer. So, well, I don't know what the next race is, but I'm looking forward to it already. I needed a bit of PSGL action in my life to get me ramped back up after Christmas. So go on, Reese. Why don't you put me out of my misery and tell me what the next race is?
I will definitely put you out of your misery. The season 13 calendar. Hello, as we have gone from Great Britain to Portugal. We're going to Spa. We're gonna relax, put some lovely green cucumber. Oh, sorry, wrong one. The beautiful track of Spa.
Christ, yeah, it is a great track, by the way, and it also produces some fantastic racing, and I look forward to seeing it next time out too. A DRS, bit of a clinic in F1 esports at the very least. It all just becomes Kemmel Straight Fest, so I look forward to seeing it anyway, but we'll see what comes of it. It's going to be a great race. Make sure to join us then, same time next week for F4 at Spa.
Absolutely, and from me, good night.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.